How you doing, folks? You're watching Onward with Onrie. I'm your host, Kompan, and today we're going to be talking about overcoming the odds. So I've talked about this already on multiple occasions throughout the show, and I've also written about it on my blog. There are always going to be situations when you're working in this industry where you're going to be overwhelmed by what's going on around you. This especially happens around deadline, or when you're at a convention floor and it's the last hour of the show, or even before a convention when something may not go according to plan. So today I want to talk to you guys about helping you refocus so that you can accomplish what you set out to do. And the first thing that I think is important when it comes to overcoming the odds set against you is to trust yourself completely. You have to keep your eye on the prize and focus on crushing that one goal that matters most to you, right? So there's a situation that occurred earlier over the weekend, and I'm still kind of dealing with this right now, but basically I'm staying at an Airbnb on my trip to Denver. This is my first time going out to Denver for Denver Comic-Con. I'm really looking forward to heading there this weekend. And when I initially got my Airbnb, I worked it out with the host that I would be shipping out all of my inventory to her. And we had some miscommunication issues, and she suddenly found herself with 5 very heavy boxes that each weighed over 65 pounds. And those boxes are there right now. They've been there since Saturday. And first off, I didn't expect them to get there so soon. And second, I had forewarned her that she would be expecting those boxes, and that was one of the conditions of me staying there, was to make sure that I could actually send everything out to her and that she could receive it. So we had some communication issues because I got distracted with things that were going on in my life. I recently just finished some construction at home, and been juggling time with my kids because my older son is out of school now, and my younger son he's about to turn 1, so it's getting that quality father time in is really important for me. And there's just everything else, keeping Eastern Shin going, and there's just life. So I kind of let the ball, I kind of dropped the ball, and I didn't communicate properly with my Airbnb host, and she got really mad. She got so mad to the point when she was ready to basically cancel my reservation. And I got an email from Airbnb telling me that she was very upset and that she wanted me to compensate her for the boxes I had shipped out. And it was all this going on at once. And I figured the only way to resolve this situation was to confront her about it directly and to try and work things out. So I gave my host a call, and she was very angry at first. She was constantly telling me to stop cutting her off during conversations, and it was leading to an aggressive area where I did not want it to go. So once she told me to actually stop cutting her off, which I guess it was happening because I was in the middle of saying something, and whatever the case is, sometimes we're in the wrong, sometimes people just want to have that, they want to show that they can, that they're in charge. And when that happens, you have to keep your eye on the prize. You have to keep your eye on the goal. Am I going to go to war with a woman that whose house I'm only going to stay at for the next 3 days? Am I going to let all that ruin what my goal is? To go to Denver Comic-Con and to sell everything? No, it's not worth it for me to start a big conflict. So, I stopped. And when she requested that I apologize for the situation she was in, I apologized. Because you know what? If I stepped outside of myself and I put myself in her shoes, I would probably feel the same way. I would probably react the same way she did. And after talking for about 15 minutes, we came to an understanding. Hopefully we'll get along great and I'll have no problems. But really the only way to resolve this situation is to trust myself to work my way through it. I had an intention of getting on the phone and working things out and being respectful to my host. And once I had that mindset, it was already done. It was just a matter of me getting there to do it. And you know, David Anthony Kraft and I, we talk about that a lot. In fact, we just had a conversation about this the other day, about what trusting yourself to do something is extremely important. You know, like when you say to yourself, I'm going to work in comics for the rest of my life and I'm going to make this my career, it's done. You already made the decision. Now you just have to do all the steps to get there. And of course, that's much easier said than done because it's always tricky. But if you have that mindset, if it's triggered, then your eye is always going to be on the target, and nothing is going to stop you. Anything that comes your way is just a distraction. You have to figure out a way to work it out. And you know, I'm not saying that my Airbnb host was a distraction. You know, it was just, if anything, I learned from that experience. I learned that maybe next time when I go to when I use an Airbnb, I have to be a little bit more specific about what I'm doing, and there's no problem with that at all. You know, and just make sure that I have better communication between me and the host. It's a good lesson to learn, and fortunately, I didn't have to. You know, I didn't suffer any damage because of learning that lesson. There's usually two ways to learn something, and it's either to have something done to you where it causes damage. It's basically like you fall down and you sprain your knee, or you can watch somebody else do it and, you know, learn from them. And you know, I just, you know, it's the experiences I've had over the years. I've had convention experiences where I've had neighbors that have been upset, and you know, people who don't like me standing in front of my table. You know, when people are angry and they got you in their hair trigger, or in their crosshairs or whatever, you know, you have to be careful of what your next step is going to be. If I go to war with people that are my neighbors or whatever, I'm going to be known as the guy who starts fights at conventions. I don't want to be the guy who starts fights at conventions. I don't want to have any problems with anybody. I respect everybody equally when I go to conventions. My objective when I go to conventions is to sell out. It has always been to sell out. And, you know, once I make that mindset up, once I have that mindset, now it's just a matter of executing. And, you know, I may get there and I may not, but the point is that I'm going for it. And once I get on the show floor on Friday from 10 to 7 p.m., that's going to be my only focus, is how to keep myself on track. And there are going to always be those variables that are going to come my way, and you know, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to get stronger at what I do. All right, and a key to all this, if you haven't noticed, is it's important to collaborate. You know, you want to feed off the energy of others to build a positive center for yourself. And how do I do this? Well, I talk to my friends. I talk to my closest friends. I collaborate with my artists. You know, I talk to Dave Kraft all the time. Him and I are, you know, we have very long conversations at least once a week. We talk about, you know, where the business is headed, you know, like what my mindset should be when it comes to going into certain shows, what I need to think about, what I can tweak, you know, things like that are going to help me grow, that are going to help me get stronger. And you want to surround yourself around people who are going to do that, you know, people who are going to build you up. You don't want to be broken down. There's plenty of people out there that are more than happy to pull you down and tell you that you can't do things. Those people you have to be extremely careful of. And they might be those friends who have like that sarcastic or cynical look on life and stuff like that. You have to be careful around people like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't be friends with them. I have plenty of cynical friends. But you have to also understand what to expect from them. You know, you're not going to go to your most pessimistic friend, your most pessimistic, nihilistic friend, you know, on the night your girlfriend dumped you and tell him that you need him for comfort. He's going to laugh in your face. You know, it's like you want to go to someone that, you know, understands you as a person, understands your personality, understands who you are, who gets you. You know, those are the kinds of people you want to collaborate with, and those are the people you want in your circle. All right, and anybody who kind of pushes you, and sometimes it's difficult because in life you don't always get to select who's in your life either. You know, you can have relatives or spouses or children or whoever who just don't, you know, belong in your circle of, you know, your success of you. You know, your mission to achieve something within a certain field. So those people need to be left out, unfortunately, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that it can't be part of your life. Like my father, he was always very skeptical of me getting into this field because the success rate is not very high for people who want to work in comics, and the ability to really grow and to make money, it's extremely difficult. So I'd be lying if I told you that my father was always 100% behind me. Sure, he encouraged me a lot and he helps me out a lot, but at the same time, he's a father who's worried about his son. So in the early stages of when I was making comics and they weren't, they didn't look great, my dad said, maybe you need to be thinking about something else, and what he meant by that was different things. Maybe I need to be focusing on putting my energy into making something, that I know is good, because when I released my first book, it wasn't great. The first comic I ever released it was, just not a very good comic, and it's my fault entirely. I mean, it's my first comic. A lot of creators don't do very well in their first comic, and you learn from that. And I took that experience and, I decided to step back and, refocus and, again, reevaluate who was in my, circle of collaboration, who could help me build that positive center. And I worked from there. And, again, you don't have control over all that stuff. And, and here's another thing too, as you grow and you become successful, people are going to want to take credit for your success as well. It's just a natural thing. So people who may not, have been part of your circle at first, who didn't understand, that what you were trying to do, may kind of come around when they see that you're doing really well for yourself. And that's what happened with my dad. So, now that he sees that, things have taken off and that Yushin Shin is, has sold over 80,000 books, and he sees that I'm going to all these conventions and selling out, well, he's now on board the E train. So, people can change their hearts too. Not everybody who doesn't believe in you doesn't care about you. So, just something to think about down the road. All right? And the last thing I'm going to impart you guys with is some really great advice that was given to me by my sister, which is very, very important. You have to reward yourself for every single victory you have. All right? Anytime you make a sale, anytime you complete a page, anytime you do something that is furthering your involvement, your career, is a time for you to step back and reward yourself. I'm not saying every single time you complete a page, chug a beer and take a bunch of drugs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying reward yourself by maybe giving yourself, let's say you're an artist and you finish writing a page, or drawing a page, sorry. After you're done with that page, maybe, go have a beer and give yourself a 5-minute break before getting started on the next page. And the same thing applies to you if you're a writer. If you write a great scene and it's an awesome scene, give yourself a break and go and reward yourself. When you get something big done, go see a movie. Go buy a video game that you've wanted to buy for a long time. Go sit down for 2 hours and just play video games. Because here's the thing, guys. We all only get one life. And we don't we don't know how long we have. Tomorrow we could all get a phone call telling us that, we got cancer and the world's ending. And you want to live your life to the fullest. If every single moment of your life is a struggle, then it'll always remain as such. If you can stop and enjoy the small things in life, every small victory, you're going to get to where you need to go, and you're going to love every minute of it. Because even when you're faced with problems, once you work through them, you're going to know to avoid that pothole in the future. And you're going to know that you can trust yourself to do everything, and that you're learning. And you'll have the fortune that you want to support any kind of outside of hobbies you have, traveling, enjoying nice, good food, good company, all that kind of stuff. So all of that is possible, but you have to remember to enjoy your life along the way. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. So it all starts by rewarding yourself for those victories. You put your work, you put your heart and soul into something, reward yourself for it. A lot of people fail to do that, especially in the corporate world. And I know this because I worked corporate for a very long time. When you're working, in these bigger companies, everybody is supposed to sacrifice themselves and live or die by the sword. You know, like you're supposed to come in early and leave late every single day. But aside from a paycheck, where's the reward? You finish these projects and everything like that, it's on to, you got another 500,000 projects. So what's going to motivate you to keep moving forward? I'm not saying that working in a corporate environment keeps you from having any sort of enjoyment in life. Some people really like it, but you know, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, you know, you still have to give yourself some sort of reward for doing it. And a lot of those guys, they work hard and they play harder. You know, they go out and they party over the weekend. They blow their paychecks, you know, from just one weekend. But that's a lifestyle choice, you know. But there's that concept of, you know, working hard and rewarding yourself, that still is very valid there. I think one of the advantages of being your own boss and a small business owner is you get to determine when you get, you know, you get to determine what the victory is and what your reward is, because you're in charge, and that's a very powerful thing. So, all right, guys. Next week I'll be back on with a brand new episode. We're going to have Ted Sikora on as a special guest. I'm going to be interviewing him this weekend at Denver Comic-Con, or I guess not interviewing him, but just talking to him. And we're going to get some insight from him on his brand new comic book series, The Tap Dance Killer, which sold out through Diamond, along with his other hit series, Apama. So come join us next week. Until then, onward to victory.